Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the 42nd ever real grade Gundam kit, and this of course is the Shining Gundam. It's been 3 years since the release of the God Gundam, one of the most over-the-top and posable small-scale kits of all time, so it'll be interesting to see how the Shining compares in comparison. Now, we'll mention at this point right here, I do have it built already. It is insanely cool, and I will also admit that I've only just recently watched Mobile Fighter G Gundam. I have to say, out of the God Gundam and the Shining Gundam, after watching that and building this, I think the Shining might be my favorite from the two. But then again, that is getting a little bit ahead of myself. Anyway, as usual, this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely fantastic people over at HobbyLink Japan, so the link is down there in the description. Now let's wind on back to the unboxing and the build. On busting open the box, you're greeted with 11 full runners of plastic, as well as one tiny MS joint and one runner of effect parts, which is the beam sabers. Now when it comes to breaking this down, we've got some great colors overall in here. Both of the A runners are multicolored. We've got lots of brilliant, beautiful, vivid colors, including the pearlescent shiny metallic of the Shining Finger. We've got some clear sections for using in the eyes, chest, and the core lander. And when it does come to other interesting aspects about this particular kit right here, two runners are reused from the God Gundam, even though 98% of this kit is pretty much brand new. Runner C right here is lifted right from the God Gundam kit, but you don't use much of it. Just the hands, hip joints, and the waist joint, which does mean there should be some compatibility with the parts between this and the God Gundam. On top of that, we do have what I felt was God Gundam's Achilles heel, or should I say Achilles forearm. That is MS Joint B right here. So this is the classic early real grade syndrome kind of set of parts. These are in the forearms, and they did kind of loosen up over time on the God Gundam. They are included in here as well. When it comes to the whites in here, they are split up into two-tone, which is the pristine white and the light gray. The golds in here are injection gold, but it is very, very glossy, very, very shiny, and does look nice. Not quite as nice as painted or plated, but definitely more durable. Finally, then we do have the sheet of stickers for using with this kit. This is the real grade style stickers, and I will mention the stickers in here for the eyes. Does mean that there are no color separated eyes on this kit, which is a little bit of a letdown, but not the biggest deal. Anyway, when it does come to the build, let's start with the legs. So beginning the build from the ground up, starting with the legs. Now these are incredibly impressive. This is the out of box build, and as you can see, the detail and the color separation is stupendous. We also do have a lot of nice moving parts in here, especially when it does come to the transformation to super mode. Whether or not the gold parts are to your taste or not compared to gray parts, that is up to you, but overall extremely, extremely impressive, and the articulation here is just as nice, it seems, as what we saw from the God. The overall structure of the feet builds up very, very nicely with a lot of articulation. Pivots for the toe bend, actually 2 pivots for the toe bend. We've got a kind of interesting slot and slide mechanism for the toes themselves. The armor attaches simply onto all of that, onto the top, onto the sides, and then you build the ankle joint directly onto the foot, so the joint attaches on first and then gets locked into place by the actual 2 side aspects of that joint. The ankle armor in here is just as nice with a lot of moving elements, including the super mode transformation. 2 parts lock in from the side in light gray, and then the white armor snaps on just in top of that. You pop that nicely into position in the foot on a bit of a rocking joint, and then the heel armor actually locks it all into position. Very, very nice. We've got a bit of a attachment joint that attaches onto that. Some ankle shin armor comes from below, and that's pretty much the foot done for now. The next stage of the build brings you right up to the hip joint. Again, one of those kind of keyhole locking joints. The upper thigh armor in here is pretty much identical to what we would have seen with the God Gundam, so it attaches together in exactly the same way. Again, a keyhole lock for the hip joints into that. The knee joint then attaches on in the usual kind of Gundam knee joint fashion of 3 parts, but we do have a sliding gimmick for the knee in here. Next up, we're moving on to the gold parts. These are for inside of those nice thrusters in the calves. These are a little bit hard to build up. There's a little bit of a swinging mechanism that completes this build that is a little bit on the difficult side. Installing this into the side of the calves too can be a little bit awkward, including attaching the red section onto it. So pay attention to the instructions and you'll get it done at least perfectly the second time round. This all then seals together with the blue armor on top. Finally then, the leg starts actually coming together when we attach the calf armors onto the upper leg armor and then attach the foot via a ball joint onto that. The armor builds up onto the upper thigh section just exactly like we would have seen with the God Gundam itself, and then we snap on the white sections onto the front and back of the leg, finishing it off with the very nice layered calf armor on the inner side of the leg. And there we go, 2 legs complete, and these are ridiculously impressive. Nice articulation, fantastic color separation, and the build is rock solid and easy to pull off. Moving on up now to the Gunderpants, and these are very, very similar yet again to what we saw with the God Gundam. The joints are pretty much similar to before. We've got movement pretty much everywhere, front skirtings, side skirtings, and the rear skirting. Everything moves out of the way, and we do have some sliding hip joints in it as well. We start off with the joint that attaches to the waist. This is a 3-piece joint, which becomes a 4-piece joint. That's put to the side for a second while you build the sliding hips into the body of the waist, and then you attach in that multi-jointed part that attaches finally into the torso. This kit continues to be super impressive by having this nice little base adapter section hole built into it. It also has a little bit of a cover flap, so when you're not actually using a base, there is no obscene looking hole in the arse of it. That attaches onto the main body of the waist unit, and then you build up the simple yet super impressive front skirting armors. We've got a pivoting ball joint, some white armor attaches on from the front, from below, and then both of these attach onto the front of the waist unit. Some color separation in grey and red pops on top of this. Moving around to the side skirtings, both of these are slightly different from another. The first one is a grey piece onto a white piece with some light grey sections which just slide on in with a nice keyhole locking joint which attaches it to the waist unit. Jumping onto the other side now, and this is where we get the rack for the beam saber, so it builds up ever so slightly, similar but a little bit different with an attachment point for those. These then don't actually attach into the waist unit, these attach into the butt skirt armor. They attach by ball joints, white armor pops on top of that, and then this attaches in by a rocking joint into the waist unit, which rocks into position and gets locked into position from behind. Again, simple, but at the same time, so perfectly engineered. Very, very nice. Once you get the legs popped onto this, we've finally got ourselves a pair of Gundam trousers, which are looking phenomenal. Moving up now to the chest unit, and once again, super impressive. A simple build with a lot of payoff. Opening cockpit hatch, ridiculously super multi-jointed neck like we saw on the God Gundam, and we do have some nice ab crunch and side-to-side crunch too. Again, building up similar to what we would have seen with the God Gundam, we've got a pivoting joint in the first little bit of the build. Some red color then attaches onto that. We then jump right to the cockpit hatch, which builds up in a lot of simple yet very well thought out joints. These then pop directly onto the chest like so. At this point, you do have to choose what sticker you're going to be using inside of the chest. You have a clear one with the emblem on it, a plain green one, or a green one with the emblem. Yellow color separation slides up from below here. Next up, we built the shoulder joints, which are very, very small parts. Again, keyhole locking, but a little bit difficult to attach together due to the size. They attach then into the torso. The upper torso attaches to the lower section via a simple ball joint. Upper torso attaches on just like so, and then that multi-joint neck is put together. It is so, so nice. We've got one point of moving in the piece we build, and then it slides on into the torso, giving you an extra second joint, not including where the head attaches on via a ball joint. We then have 2 parts of armor that slide in from the back. Some more absolutely tiny pieces, which are the machine cannons, which are fully color separated in yellow. Now, these might look a little bit small, but they are easy to attach. They just basically drop into position and then are locked in when you attach on the rear blue armor, followed by the front blue chest armor. Lastly, then we do have a clear part for inside of the chest, which is this nice, beautiful green gem. Simple to pop together, looks fantastic, and there it is attached onto the legs and the waist we just built. So this is coming together and coming together quite quickly. A lot of payoff for essentially not a whole lot of build. Next up in here is the arm. Of course, you do have to build 2 of these, but I'm only going to be building 1 for this video. These are extremely, extremely nice like we've seen with the rest of the kit so far, with one little bit of a letdown. Overall, we do have the nice transforming elements up in the shoulder as well as the forearm. The parts in here are gold. Again, that will depend on your own taste whether you wanted this to be in gold or in grey. We do have a lot of nice articulation in here as well, like I mentioned, but that forearm is that MS joint, which is not necessarily the greatest, but then again, in this case, doesn't seem to be the worst either. The build here is similar to what we would have seen before, so the guts of the forearm is 4 pieces which attach together to give you a double jointed elbow joint. Attaching on the upper arm armor is very impressive. You actually slide it in and then push upwards to lock it into position, and then it finally super locks into position with this nice bit of grey armor which attaches in from the front. Next up, we do have to grab the MS joints. Like I've mentioned multiple times already, this to me is the biggest letdown with this kit, and I'm basing this mainly on the God Gundam, which had its forearms loosen up a lot after, well, just playing around with it a little bit, which is sad. There is two pieces to this. The first one is up in the shoulder, so you cut that out. Pop it directly down into the arm you've built already, and it is a keyhole joint, so it does lock into position. You throw on the wrist armor section next, pop out another piece of that MS joint, rip off the hand, you attach on some more wrist armor, again it keyhole locks into position and then rotates into its final place. A piece of armor then attaches onto the shoulder, cuff armor from below. The inner workings of the gauntlet armor then attach together with two gold sections inside. A third gold section comes in from below for that little claw part. A big piece of blue armor attaches onto the back, finally with another slightly smaller piece which locks into that then. Finally then we start building the shoulder, so that is some of those gold sections. We've got a little bit of light grey articulation inside of this. When it all sandwiches together then, using that light grey piece, this C-clips the shoulder on nicely. It locks in good, and this gives you a simple little transformation to super mode, which is quite effective. Red parts pop on, and a grey bit sandwiches in from below. Finally then you do have to build up the hands, and I just went with the standard one that came off it when you remove the hand from the MS joint. There it is finished. We've got two of these, of course, and once they're popped on, they look like this. This is definitely coming together nicely. As to how the MS joint in the forearm will work out in the end, it actually feels a little better so far, but only time will tell. As you'd expect, the head is made of a plethora of tiny little parts. First off, we've got the red inner muzzle, which attaches onto the clear section of the eyes. Like I mentioned, the eyes are not color separated in here, so you will have to choose one of the stickers available to you. I went with the standard black outer, shiny green inner. Attaching this on was actually simpler than I thought it would be. And then we've got some more tiny parts. For the head Vulcans in yellow, that muzzle we built just attaches onto this section like so. The opening and closing Gundam muzzle mouth section on this I thought would be really hard to put together, but it's designed simply and effectively. These parts, which are the doors of the face, pop on simply. Thankfully, they're instantly locked into position with the front head armor. We've got two tiny little pieces for around back as well, which slot in like this. These are a little bit more awkward, especially to get the alignment just right. Then we've got all of those 5 yellow sections for a round on its head. Again, not too hard to attach, but if you find small parts difficult, this might be a little bit on the difficult side. I recommend sticking some blue tack onto the end of a file and sticking them on with that. This all then locks together with the rear of the head. The V-fin in here is just a yellow V-fin with a bit of grey armor which attaches on, and finally that slaps onto the forehead of the Shining Gundam, and that goes onto the neck where you would expect it to, and overall this is looking so good. We've pretty much got the kit finished right here, but next we've got the core lander, which actually is a little bit more involved build-wise than I thought it would be. You start right into it with the cockpit section. The clear canopy attaches on from below, swings around on top. You build the lower section of this. It's blue with a little bit of a joint attaches on from underneath. This attaches into what is going to be the main body of the core lander with a nice little bit of a joint. Red color separation comes in from below. You have to build two of the hovering thruster sections. These have a pivoting ball joint. A grey section attaches in for the inside section, framed ever so nicely then with white around the outside. These attach via joints into the main body. You build the lower section then with a tiny little pivoting joint for the thruster. Two more white thrusters slide in perpendicular, flip into position, attach the two main build sections together just like so. They lock together with these two panels on the side, which is very simple and effective. And finally we have a little pivoting thruster which attaches onto the bottom. This is what it looks like finished. It looks phenomenal, very detailed, and then you just flip out the cockpit section like so, slot it into the hole in the back of the Shining Gundam like this, and we are finally complete. Lastly then, here we do have a few accessories. Nothing too over the top, so it's simple to do. The beam sabers are just handles, the beams attach on. The beams are from 2002, which is probably the high-grade G Gundam kits. We also have a cacophony of hands in here, including the Shining Finger made out of 2 parts, and a whole bunch of hands that came with the God Gundam, and 2 extra hands unique to this kit. And finally, there we go. There is the real grade Shining Gundam complete. And I have to say, this is a full return to form for real grade. Last year, 2024, was a little bit on the funny side for real grade. Just to, well, refresh your memory a little bit. First off, we got a rehash kit, which, well, it was just a recolor of the Force Impulse Gundam. Great kit, but worthy of a full release? Maybe not. Then we got the real grade Granddaddy 2.0, which is a phenomenal kit, but the first batch of releases did have a kind of mangled head slightly, which isn't great. And then Bandai finished off the year with the real grade Akatsuki, which is probably the biggest letdown in real grade, well, recent history. This here, however, is a absolute full return to form. It builds perfectly. Everything about it is absolutely beautiful. Just out of box like what you're seeing right here, this is an absolute masterpiece. It is rock solid, it poses up so well. No loose parts, no awkwardness, no nothing like that. It does look exactly like the anime version of the Shining Gundam, but with that real grade flavor. We've got all the extra detail, two-tone of white, and this is it without any decals or panel lining whatsoever. There's a couple of poses there so you can check out what it can pull off, and it seems like it might be on par with the God Gundam itself. If you've always thought the Shining Gundam was a nice design, but none of the kits out there so far have captured its majesty, this is the one right here. I am utterly in love. Fantastic kit, and make sure to come back for the review. Once again, I did get mine right here through HobbyLink Japan, link is down there in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla builds and reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, all these videos on here would not be possible without each and every one of you guys watching these videos, so thank you so much. And special thanks to those of you who are helping out over on the Patreon, as well as on the channel members, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe or G, 59061, Scotty Thomas, Simon, and Van Fawn.